Good evening, I'm Nate Benson, and yes, I now have my own show. On the agenda tonight, a dereliction of duty. That's how a judge summarized the city controller's role in a budget battle in court. Getting candid on the Kensington, we're hearing from Governor Hochul for the first time since the DOT announced a reset for their marquee project here in Western New York. And we're also hearing from the DEC commissioner about a major discharge violation, one in the city of Buffalo and another in Cattaraugus County. It's campaign season in the city, and the candidates for Buffalo mayor ramp up their campaigns at a forum as Election Day nears, and we'll check out the Hollow Door Roosevelt exhibit and celebrate the 200th anniversary of the Erie Canal. But at the top of the agenda, the legal battle between the city controller, acting mayor, and common council played out in a courtroom this week. At the crux of the issue was the controller's refusal to go to the bond market for the $110 million capital budget. On Wednesday, a judge ruled on that lawsuit. It was a swift and strong decision by Judge Emilio Koliakovo. The lawsuit between the acting mayor, Councilmember Nowakowski, and Controller Barbara Miller-Williams was heard on Monday in court, and by Wednesday, a ruling was issued. Her lawyers argued a 1945 and 1994 resolution passed by the council gave the controller discretion over how much can be borrowed.
For 20 years, and that's the period we've confirmed, it may be longer, no mayor has challenged a debt cap set by the controller.
So let me ask you that question.
So it hasn't come up.
Let me ask you that. Can you point to any legal authority that permits the controller to establish a fixed and binding debt cap that the legislature, in this particular case the common council, the executive or the mayor, is bound by?
This is where the burden is the critical element on why the controller prevails. The heavy burden is on my opponent.
Judge Koliakovo disagreed and is compelling the controller to go to the bond market, saying that her duty is ministerial and she has no discretion and she must bond as required. You'll remember that the council passed a $110 million capital budget in December that would have required her to go to the bond market. However, she set a recommended bond cap of $28 million. And in the months since, she has refused to go to the bond market. Judge Koliakovo said by inserting herself into the process, the controller exceeded her mandate and failed to abide by her ministerial role as provided in the charter.
A very costly Civics 101 that we had to have a judge tell elected officials what their chartered role was.
I want to be very clear, this is not something we wanted to do, is not a path we wanted to go down, but the delays in projects, the money that it will cost in addition to what it would have originally cost, I felt the need to go the legal route.
Ultimately, I'm embarrassed though for the city of Buffalo because this will come at the expense of the taxpayers who now have to pay for legal fees for outside counsel.
How much is this legal matter going to cost city taxpayers?
I don't have the exact numbers with relation to outside counsel, but we can get that for you. But at the end of the day, I think the bigger financial impact is the delays in these projects.
Since the Charter Review Commission is in session, should they look at this and maybe clear up any ambiguity in the city charter in terms of rules of governance here?
I would think they could take that into consideration. You know, I personally think it's already very clear, and that's what I've stated all along. That's why I felt so confident that we'd be successful in the court battle. But if they want to use this precedent as reference for anything they want to put in the city charter, I think that's a great idea.
I think that they should take a look at it, but we did have a judge reaffirm the language already within our own charter, and that the word superintend does not mean to halt. But ultimately, I do want to stress to taxpayers, yes, this is a win for the Common Council and its authority and to get projects up and going, but ultimately it's going to come at a cost to them.
As Judge Koliakovo pointed out in his ruling, the controller failed to uphold her elected duty throughout this process, which raises the question, do you believe she should remain in office after this decision?
Yeah, I don't think it's a reason for the controller to leave office. This is a difference of opinion.
She is not able to uphold her duties in office. The voters ultimately voted her in for a 4-year term, so you get what you voted for, but ultimately I hope the taxpayers and the press hold her accountable.
Governor Hochul visited Buffalo nearly a week after the State Department of Transportation announced a reset of the Kensington Expressway project. First, let's recap that reset and what it means for the project. 7 months ago, Judge Emilio Koliakovo ruled that the DOT cannot move forward with their plans for the Kensington Expressway unless they conduct a full environmental impact statement. Now, the state DOT says they will conduct a full environmental impact statement.
We're starting fresh. We're starting with a full EIS. We have a new team in place. The new team's not reflective of the old team not being anything issue. It's just timing, but it's great to start off with a fresh team and go out to the public on a fresh approach.
Part of that fresh approach includes looking at a variety of options.
Oh, it does include a fill-in option. We're going to study that.
The previous EA ruled out a fill-in option for not being feasible. Why is that all of a sudden now back on the table being considered?
Well, I would think that with further review, you look at all options. EISs are a little bit more encompassing, and it gives us a chance to look at it.
Music to the ears of Eastside Parkway's coalition members I spoke to who led the lawsuit against the DOT to begin with.
Elation. My reaction is partial victory. We're looking for a total victory.
I am grateful that DOT said we're going to move forward with the EIS process and we're going to reset it. But there's really only two options. Whether you continue the 33, whether you cover it or not, or whether you fill it in and restore Humboldt Parkway, restore Olmsted Parkway. Bam, there's really only two options.
The DOT says they will begin community meetings about the Kensington in the coming weeks. That process is expected to take several months.
Once the meetings are complete, we'll compile that information, see what project is buildable, what's able to be done, and then start the EIS process.
The DOT will be conducting a large traffic study that includes the Kensington, but also arterial roads like Broadway, Genesee, and Walden Ave.
You need to have a cohesive plan of traffic, and those starts and stops will be part of a plan. But, this is a little ahead of the game. Right now we're really doing the look at the community involvement portion of this process.
Once public comments are collected, the EIS will begin and take at least 3 years to conduct. The DOT hinted that the current White House administration may not favor a Reconnecting Communities project like was originally planned for the 33, but a new EIS could change that objective and funding will likely still remain in place.
I don't want to go too much into funding, but I would say that I am not aware of any funding changes with the project. So, there's transportation dollars that are meant for transportation projects, and this is a transportation project.
Governor Hochul was very candid about the Kensington project when visiting Buffalo on Monday, and to be honest, there was clear signs of frustration about the topic. Here's her full remarks.
Let's talk about that. I first proposed, a major initiative to try and repair a community that was severed by this, massive infrastructure, the Kensington, the 33. So my first budget, January of 2022, I proposed $1 billion to accomplish something that had been talked about in the community for decades, but no money behind it, no support behind it. Of course, that engendered a lot of opinions on it, and I knew we had a finite amount of money to work with. But we started the process. We did the environmental assessment. I got support from the federal government. We're making real progress. And as often happens with projects across the state, but it feels too frequent here in Western New York, that people with a different opinion decide to go to court and to basically stop what I thought was going to be significant progress for the community. So that's what happened. So we stepped back and said, well, the court said no because these advocates have asked for it. Basically shut down the project until it's more in line with what they want. But now we are at a place of a reset. I had our Commissioner of DOT, Marie-Therese Dominguez, come out and talk about that. The community engagement starts again. It is a longer process. It is a more expensive process just to do the background reviews to get to a point then where we are right now. So we're probably a few years down the road to get to where we are now. Okay, I want everybody to be aware of that. Be patient, because these environmental review processes are lengthy. And then the question will be, at the end of all this, what is the price tag? What is the price tag of what, if everybody wants something that's a much larger scale than we knew we could accomplish, that's going to have a bigger price tag to it, I guarantee it. So I guess the observation is we're doing what the judge asked us to do. We're heading down that path, but I just caution everybody to know it's a longer path and will ultimately be a more expensive path than where I thought we could be at this point, which was actually driving some real results for the community. So, you asked my opinion, that's my opinion.
Now, I don't think I've said discharge violations more in my career than I have in the last month. The State Department of Environmental Conservation announced a settlement with the city of Buffalo after years of sewage discharge violations. And the department is also responding to a massive fish kill incident in Ishua Creek, located in Cattaraugus County, which was caused by Great Lakes cheese. And I spoke with the DEC commissioner about both of these important issues earlier this week. A lot of folks in Cattaraugus County still very concerned about Ishua Creek regarding the Great Lakes cheese discharge. What's the latest in that situation?
Well, first and foremost, we immediately responded to the scene as soon as we saw the impacts from Great Lakes cheese into Ishua Creek. And I want to make it very clear that we will ensure that we use every tool in our toolbox to hold Great Lakes cheese accountable and see the restoration of Ishua Creek. We are currently working on enforcement. We're in deep conversation, obviously, with the operator. And in addition to that, we're also understanding and calculating the full extent of the damage to Ishua Creek so that we can also pursue natural resources damages so we can see that full restoration. We remain really working with them day in and day out. We have operators actually inside the facility to validate the data that we're getting to make sure that we really have a full understanding of what's happening. And we're going to continue to ensure that they meet all of their permit requirements before they start to operate, importantly, and before they start to have any more effluent going into Ishua Creek.
They opened that facility back in November 2024, and out of the gate, 2 weeks after they opened, they were already violating that discharge permit according to the EPA records that we found. Where was the DEC in all of that in real time? You know, we're now almost a year later, but they were violating it every month.
Yeah, so we've actually issued several notices of violations to Great Lakes Cheese. For a digester system like they have in that facility, digesters do take some time in order to actually start functioning properly because they're live systems. And so it's pretty common that you'll see with a digester that it takes some time to get going. That said, we saw significant violations, so we issued them actually 4 notices of violations, and we are working on taking action against them actually when this event occurred. And what we think happened leading up into that August incident is that there were several failures of operations inside the plant that actually then caused the excess outflow happening in August that led to the die-off in Ishua Creek.
Have you been able to identify what was actually discharged? I know it was high in nitrates and ammonia. I know a lot of people might not understand, the contents of that discharge. Sure. It might not have necessarily just been one chemical, right?
Well, it's nutrients. So that's really what we're looking at is nutrients, including ammonia, as you noted. That's really what we saw go into the stream based off of our testing, because we are doing testing every day at 10 different locations following Ishua Creek, following the die-off in Ishua Creek. And really what we saw was the ammonia levels were really high, increased nutrients, and then that caused really, really low dissolved oxygen. And that low dissolved oxygen is what caused that die-off of the different species in the creek.
Is the creek still kind of prohibited for recreational use at this time?
We want to see further restoration. We see really, really positive water quality indicators, right? The chemistry of the water is returning, which is wonderful. Really what the impacts are going to be longer term is we're gonna have to wait sort of the generations, the life cycle of different fish and different species to come back to rebuild, but the chemistry itself is responding pretty fast. Pretty much actually as soon as we saw the voluntary shutoff of the effluent going into Ishua Creek, we started to see the dissolved oxygen return, see the ammonia levels begin to drop. So we're seeing really, really positive signs on the water chemistry. What will take longer is to see the restoration, and that's going to be a longer term action from the DEC to really seek the enforcement against them to ensure that we get the investment back into Ishua Creek to get it where it needs to be, which we are committed to doing.
Shifting to another discharge issue with the Buffalo Sewer Authority, it was announced yesterday a consent agreement between the BSA and the DEC. Walk us through how years worth of violations led to a $20,000 fine and a new park for the Buffalo.
Well, we are thrilled to see this consent order. This is really important. We're going to see over the next 15 years $1 billion worth of investment that's going to improve the water quality of the Niagara River, make sure that we're investing in green infrastructure, as well as really critically the water infrastructure that is failing. Over many years, the Buffalo Sewer Authority has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in order to address their failing water infrastructure, but we saw that wasn't enough. So we wanted to take additional action to put them on a long-term control plan. So that long-term plan is really what we announced. And that's going to be where we see that $1 billion investments over the next 15 years to make sure that we see positive water quality and just really a great and important investment for Buffalo.
BSA was violating its previous long-term control plan, though, that was established in 2014. Are you confident they'll be able to follow through with this new plan?
They have actually been really collaborative partners in working through this, and I will say that they've been eager to try and solve some of these core issues. I think we saw that previous 2014 long-term plan wasn't sufficient, so we needed to make sure that we really rolled up our sleeves and figured out a solution and worked with them in order to make this happen. And so they've been very willing partners. That we haven't had to drag them kicking and screaming. They understand the importance of really making these investments to clean up the Niagara River as well as its tributaries. So we feel confident, and if not, importantly, we've got the enforcement tools that we need in order to hold them accountable to make sure that they make these investments for Buffalo.
Coming up on the agenda, it's the race to City Hall, and I don't run, but 3 candidates are, and we will hear about their vision for Buffalo after this. The race to City Hall is underway, and 3 candidates will be on the ballot in the city of Buffalo. New York State Senator Sean Ryan for the Democratic Party, James Gardner for the Republican, and independent candidate Michael Gaynor. All 3 participated in a forum on Thursday night, the first official forum with all 3 since the primary back in June. Here's a mixtape of responses from the candidates on a variety of topics during that forum.
We don't use city resources to see if people are smuggling lettuce across the border.
My vision is how we increase the population of this city in the next 10 years by 50,000 people.
The only sound you're going to hear is the footsteps of people leaving.
We are so back, as the kids say. The pumpkin spice is in the air, and the candidates are pitching their vision for the city of Buffalo. A few more than 50 people turned out to the Theater of Youth in Allentown Thursday night to listen to the 3 candidates that will appear on the November ballot for the mayor of City of Buffalo. In case you've forgotten, those candidates are Senator Sean Ryan for the Democrats, James Gardner for the Republicans, and independent candidate Michael Gaynor. And you might remember the rules for these types of stories. I have to do my best to give each one equal time, so their campaign managers don't blow up my phone with words I can't say on TV. The forum covered a variety of topics, including crime, city finances, potholes, and vacant properties. It's more than I have time to cover right now, and as a way to reintroduce the election cycle to you wonderful viewers at home, I asked each candidate why someone living in Buffalo should vote for them.
My administration is about mobilizing citizens. It's about people getting involved in our campaign. It's about people being involved in decision-making and problem-solving even after I'm elected. It's going to be a very decentralized decision-making process. It's going to bring more people to the table. It's going to bring a world-class team that can really initiate transformative change for our residents, for our neighbors, for our small businesses.
Buffalo deserves better. We need to be able to do the basics. We need to plow our streets, fix our potholes, fix our community centers. And that's the message I've been talking to voters about since before the primary. And I continue to knock on doors. I continue to go to community events. And that message is being received all around the city.
Step outside and look around. That's what 60 years of one-party leadership has given the city of Buffalo. You have an entire half of the city that's been ravaged by poverty, by a lack of investment, by hopelessness. If you aren't changing the way you're voting, then you're choosing what's come before you. And that's my message. It is time to take the city in a completely different direction.
Coming up, Dave McKinley has a chat with Theodore Roosevelt, and Rob Hackford is in a canal. We'll wrap up the agenda when we come back. And now for something completely different. My colleague Dave McKinley had a chance to chat with Theodore Roosevelt this week. Well, his hologram, at least.
When I came over here, I thought I was going to see a green thing in a box or something. I didn't think it would be this big.
And though they were offered something the size of this bust, as the saying goes,
go large or go home, exactly.
And though it admittedly looks perhaps a bit out of place amid the period furniture and more than century-old artifacts,
Teddy had so much gusto, and we all know him as this big character, so he has to be life-size. So that's why we have the big box.
Inside is a holographic avatar depicting renowned Roosevelt repriser Joe Wiegand of North Dakota.
We sent him to California, and he talked in front of a green screen for less than an hour, and then the rest was filled in with AI.
Which filled the program with virtually all knowledge of Roosevelt.
All of that history about Roosevelt, everything that was published, anything that related to Roosevelt up until his death in 1919, this Theodore Roosevelt can speak on.
I embarked upon this expedition in 1913-1914.
And that's why when you ask a question, he's going to give you an answer.
He's going to give you an answer.
Because it's almost like his brain is right there.
Exactly.
Add in the speech patterns and mannerisms as provided by Weekend.
No day is complete without the vigor of engaging in hearty discourse and the pursuit of knowledge.
And you have what they call Holo-Ted.
Mr. President, why did you call your party the Bull Moose Party?
The Bull Moose Party, a splendid chapter in my life.
Theodore Roosevelt will forever be linked to this place where he took the oath of office as our 26th president following the assassination in Buffalo of President William McKinley.
What did you think of President McKinley or anyone named McKinley asking for a friend?
As for President William McKinley, I held a measured respect for him. He was a man of integrity and stability, leading our nation through times of both peace and conflict, such as the Spanish-American War. If you speak of another individual by the name of McKinley, I'm afraid my knowledge is limited to those who walked the stage of public life up to 1919. Could you enlighten me further on whom you refer to, if their renown extends beyond that period?
Oh, sir, I could write a book on it.
On your side in Buffalo, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
Finally tonight, I've got the finest mule in town. She's a perfect lady, and she blushes like a gal if she hears you sing about her in the Erie Canal. 2 on your side's Rob Hackford has more.
Echoing back 200 years, crowds gathered at Canalside in Buffalo to celebrate the Seneca Chief.
We signed the hull of it about 2-3 years ago, and now we're excited to see it go.
A project 4 years in the making that is now on a 33-day journey straight out of history.
Erie Canal is one of the greatest feats of American engineering and financial history. So it really created the United States. It unleashed the Great Lakes industrial might and farming might of the United States and brought it to the rest of the world.
A journey that Nina and Brent Aaronsell will get to see twice.
Our 2 boys are living in Manhattan.
In 33 days, we're going to be on the Hudson River watching this boat, celebrating 200 years.
For Buffalo native Sam Castro, it was the excitement of the Seneca Chief's arrival in the Tonawandas that sparked his hometown pride.
We followed the boat all the way from Grand Island. It should have been a lot more festive. They should have had fireworks, you know, all the way up and down the Erie Canal, celebrating this momentous occasion. You know, it's beautiful.
A moment captured on cameras and in the minds of those who appreciate the canal's importance.
This is a really exciting day for not only the city of Tonawanda, but for New York State, because honestly, this is the 200th bicentennial year of the Erie Canal. I'm with the Historical Society of the Tonawandas. We've been celebrating it all summer with walks and talks, and now this.
With 28 stops planned from Buffalo to New York City and a wedding of the waters, it's a celebration these New Yorkers are proud to be a part of.
I think we're all part of this celebration, and I think over the next couple of days, we're going to track it all the way down the canal, all the way down to New York City, and I think it'll be exciting to see this boat when it pulls into New York Harbor.
On your side, Rob Hackford, Channel 2 News.
Wrapping up the agenda, remember you can send me your emails to the home office, nathan.benson@wgrz.com. Now, if email isn't your jam, you can reach me on social media as well. Send me your feedback. Let me know what you want to see on the agenda moving forward. We might just read your message on air to eat up some time. Thanks again for watching. I'm Nate Benson, and we'll see you at the next one.